Taylor family. Thank everyone for coming. Welcome you here. Your presence adds joy and excitement to this happy event. And I know some of you have traveled for some distance, and it really is nice to have you here for this special event. And for Francisco and Ashton, we can remind you that marriage, no doubt, is the oldest institution in human history. The very first man and woman, Adam and Eve, they were married by their Creator. He officiated at that ceremony. In fact, a rather unusual situation. He was the father of the bride and the groom. And this arrangement set the pattern for all humankind. And with that beginning, marriage has continued for some 6,000 years now. That basic pattern that was outlined in Genesis 2, verse 24, is still in effect today, and you are part of it. That verse reads, "That is why a man will leave his father and his mother, and he must stick to his wife, and they must become one flesh." Ashton, I'm happy to announce, is my granddaughter, and it's an honor and a privilege to perform this ceremony. Not long ago, I performed another marriage ceremony for another of my granddaughters, Randy. I also performed the ceremony for Ashton's parents. Now, Ashton, it's your time. It's your time. I used to call you Little Ashton. Now you're all grown up, you're an adult lady, and you're about to be married. And I can just say that your grandmother and your great-grandmother, they would have loved to have seen you here. Francisco's a real gentleman. He even asked me for my blessing. He didn't have to, but he did, which I gave it. I was going to give it anyway. However, there was a stipulation. I hope you remember that, Francisco. That stipulation was that he teach me to play the guitar as well as he does. And that is going to be quite a job, since I barely know which end of the guitar to pick up. But marriage, however, is a serious business. Let's talk about that for a few minutes. It's a lifelong commitment. So let's review a few of the helpful points from the maker and designer of marriage from his master guidebook, the Bible. You see, compliance with that manual will ensure a happy and successful marriage, and it will help to avoid the pitfalls that are common to this institution. First, marriage is a unity. It's a partnership, and each must understand that. It's a lifelong commitment, and this partnership, each one must understand their place, their role in that unit, if it's going to work smoothly. Now, previously, you've been solo, but now you'll be duo, like a team, working side by side, helping each other. You'll be encouraging each other. You'll be working together, working for the same goals, and you will be looking out for the happiness of each other. That's what a marriage is all about. You'll be working for the same goals. You'll be looking out for the happiness of the other person and the well-being of your mate. Marriage is not an institution where one thinks only of themselves. Where there is true love, each one looks out how they can contribute to the happiness of the other one. You see, it makes one happy when they can do something for the other. That's marriage. It's a mutual partnership. In his marriage manual, the Bible, God offers some good advice for the husbands. Over in Ephesians, the 5th chapter, beginning in the 25th verse, this is his advice, his counsel for good marriage. And here he appeals to the husband to be a good husband, to treat his wife like a treasure whom he dearly loves. It's in Ephesians 5 and verse 25. I'll also refer to verses 28 and 29, But the 25th verse, here is this appeal to the husband. He said, husbands, continue loving your wives, just as the Christ also loved the congregation and delivered up himself for it. Now, dropping down further in 28 and 29, he says, in this way, husbands ought to be loving their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. For no man ever hated his own flesh, but he feeds and cherishes it, as the Christ also does the congregation. Now, this would mean then that the husband would care for his wife materially, spiritually, emotionally, and recreationally. He would never act like a demanding tyrant. This is not his role in the marriage unit. He would rather consult with his wife, ask her for her opinions, her preferences. You see, her input can be very valuable in making household decisions and in other family matters. But when you two collaborate together, though, on those decisions and those matters, and you check with your wife, and you collaborate together on a project, then the two of you can rejoice together in the completion, the successful completion of that project. You see, you can feel, we've been a good team. We've worked together well, and you can enjoy the satisfaction. And then you can eagerly move from that project on to the next one and attack it with the same zeal and enthusiasm and cooperation that you did on the first one. Francisco, if your wife makes a mistake, or you think she makes a mistake, ask yourself, have I ever made a mistake? Colossians 3:19 tells you not to be bitterly angry with her. This is not the time. This is not the best place to do so. Scolding is usually not the best remedy, even if a mistake is made. But understanding, love is the best remedy. It gets the best results. Here in Colossians, the 3rd chapter, and the 19th verse, here's the advice from God's marriage manual to the husband when it reads, you husbands, or Francisco, keep on loving your wife and do not be bitterly angry with them. So, if that mistake is made, scolding is, or you think it was a mistake, scolding is not the best remedy. Understanding and love always gets the best results. 2, the wife is not an inferior person in this unity. 1 Peter 3 verse 7 tells a husband, in fact, to give honor to his wife, to dignify her. She's not an inferior person. 1 Peter 3, and we'll have a look at verse 7. Here's the advice from the manual. You husbands, Francisco, continue dwelling in like manner with them according to knowledge, assigning them honor as to a weaker vessel, the feminine one, since you're also heirs with them of the undeserved favor of life, in order for your prayers not to be hindered. So, isn't that good advice? Isn't it loving and kind? It's the best way of life. And if that advice is followed in God's manual for marriage, it helps to make a good marriage and will help to avoid the pitfalls that are common to this age-old institution. It's been said, and I would like for the two of you to remember this always. It's been said with good reason. The key to a happy marriage is 2 good forgivers. 2 good forgivers. Remember that. You will probably need it down the road. Okay? God has assigned the husband as the head of the house, and the husband is accountable to God in this assignment. The husband has the heaviest responsibility, and so Jehovah God has given him appropriate guidelines, and we've considered just a few of those. But the wife, too, is part of this union, and God has given helpful guidelines to her as well. She, too, has certain responsibilities within the marriage arrangement, and let's consider just a few of those, Ashton. In Colossians 3, verse 18, we're kindly told that the wife is to support her husband, cooperate with him, recognizing his God-appointed headship, that he's been charged with a heavier responsibility in the marriage circle. This will make he must make final decisions, of course, in certain matters, but be in subjection to these matters. Work along with him, cooperate with him. Here's what Colossians 3:18 says in that matter. It said, "You wives, be in subjection to your husbands as it is becoming in the Lord." And Ashton, if your husband makes a mistake, or if you think he makes a mistake, scolding, again, is not usually the best remedy. Understanding and love gets the best results. Can you encourage him? Maybe even laugh about a mistake together and work on it together. You may and you should speak your thoughts, but don't continually nag or be contentious about it. Proverbs 27:15 compares a nagging wife to a leaking roof that just drips, drips, drips. Here's what it said, Proverbs 27, verse 15. That a leaking roof that drives one away in the day of a steady rain and a contentious wife are comparable. Ashton, don't be a drip, drip, drip. Yeah. So God gives good advice in his manual, the Bible, to the husband separately and to the wife separately. And we consider just a few of those. But over again in the book of Ephesians, in the 5th chapter, verses 21 to 25, God puts the two of you side by side, as it were,